All right. Hey, folks, welcome to the Two Mix. We're coming live to you from Cosmic Golf. Folks, if you have never seen this facility, you need to come and look at it. It is great. It's got 3 restaurants with 3 bars. The staff out here is exceptional, very friendly. The food is great. The breakfast, oh my gosh, that breakfast will fill you up and it's very reasonable price. And of course, always drinks. And if you are a golf enthusiast, you need to come out. You can play 18 holes, and if you want to work on your game, you can go outside and hit in the bays, out the targets, or you can use a simulator. And if you want to practice your putting, which I've got a good friend, Mike Turner, needs some work on it. He needs to go down to the putt and start working on his putting. But anyway, folks, this is just a great place to come. I encourage everybody to come out here. And today we're going to talk about dynasties.
But hold on, Jimmy.
Hold on.
You haven't even introduced our daggone guest
Well,
yet. And you just did an infomercial and didn't even introduce our guest today because we're not just two Micks today. We're two Micks and a third.
Pardon my production assistant, my ex-production assistant. But anyway, folks, we're going to talk about dynasties today. And I ain't talking about Alabama. I'm not talking about Clemson. I'm not talking about Kentucky, Golden State Warriors. What I am talking about is the North Dakota State University. And sitting next to me is Dan Musil, who played for North Dakota State University and won a championship with them. Now, I want to tell you something about this school. It's located in Fargo, North Dakota. It is in the FCS, not the FBS, but it's still in Division I football. And if you know what FBS, the only difference is FBS gets more scholarships. Like Alabama, Ohio State, they get 95 scholarships a year. They play in a bigger stadium, and they have a larger athletic budget. The FCS gets only 63 scholarships, and they have smaller stadiums and, of course, a lesser budget. Although in 2027, North Dakota State University is going to play in Allegiant Stadium to start the season off Labor Day weekend against Montana State. That's where the Raiders play their games. And
hey, are you going to let us talk today, or are you just going to do that? Is this the one Mick today, or what?
Good job, Jimmy. Yay, Jimmy.
Dan, welcome. Hey, Dan, welcome to the show.
Great intro.
It's nice. I'm glad you joined us to the one Mick, the one Jimmy Mick. So, Dan.
Anyway, North Dakota State, guys, here's where they're a dynasty. They have won 18 NCAA championships. They have a record of 5 straight championships in a row. Their overall all-time record is 799 and 384. They have got 16 players in the NFL, 7 offensive linemen, and some of these quarterbacks you might have heard of. Carson Wentz, Trey Lance. Cam Miller, he went to the Raiders in the 5th round, I believe, and he's playing for the Raiders. And Dan, what year did you win?
Wait a second, Jimmy. I've got more information because I know
you guys are doing pretty good. I'm just going to sit back and
you said that. Do you realize that North Dakota State is ranked 21st all time in wins in all colleges, all universities, all levels, everything?
If you've been patient, I would have got to.
Do you know who is number 1? I'm testing your knowledge here today, Jimmy. Who's number 1? Who's got the most wins of all time of any college football program in the history of the sport?
Michigan.
Impressive. Who's number 2?
Number 2?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not Alabama. I know that. Well, who cares?
What, Dan, do you know? Do you know
number 2? I would say not maybe Notre Dame.
No, Notre Dame is in the top 5. Let me tell you the top 5 here, Jimmy.
Does that have anything to do with North Carolina State?
It does, because I'm going to get to that in a minute.
Okay.
So Ohio State is number 2 with 981 wins. Michigan is number 1. They're the only school that has over 1,000 wins all time. They have 1,015. Alabama is 3 with 976. Texas is 4 with 963. And Notre Dame is the 5th at 962. Okay. So, but here's this. Where do you think Kentucky ranks?
Kentucky?
Where do you think Kentucky ranks?
Kentucky ranks below North Dakota.
Oh, there's
State.
no doubt about that. We already said North Dakota State is the 20. They rank 21st with
Yeah.
799
I do
wins.
not know where Kentucky ranks. in
Kentucky
football.
ranks.
I know where they
91st.
rank in basketball. They're number one.
Well,
Mike.
they are number one, but in football, this surprised me. They're actually in the top 100.
Oh, that's
They're
good.
at 91st with 649 total wins.
Okay.
You know where Louisville is? They're not, I don't know where they are because they're not in the top 100.
Okay.
But they've got a total of 561 wins. So getting back to your point, North Dakota State
has 799 wins.
they do. They're ranked, but I'm talking about NCAA championships. They have 18 total. They are tied with
already
another
said that.
school. I know, but I'm giving you more facts here, Jimmy. They are tied with another school that also has 18 championships.
Well, who would that be?
That's what I'm asking you.
Who would that be?
18.
18. They also have 18.
Who would that be?
That would be Yale.
Oh, Yale.
Of course, Yale won their last championship in 1927, but the NCAA recognizes their 18 championships. Their first was in the 1800s, and they won their last one in 1927. And you know who is right
You know, if
behind
you
them?
keep talking, you may have to be drawing on.
Well, I'm educating you, Jimmy. I'm educating you on the facts.
Okay.
One other thing, you know who's third? Right behind?
No, but I'm sure you're going to tell us.
Of course, Alabama.
Okay, there we go.
Where's Mark Kane?
All right.
He'd be happy. He'd be cheering right now. He's probably out
Anyway.
there playing golf.
Some of the teams that North Dakota State has beaten in Division One, Tier One, has been Kansas, Minnesota, Colorado State, Kansas State, Iowa State, and Iowa. And they played all these teams on the road and beat them. And Dan,
Yeah, they had 6 straight, I think, at one time.
yeah, tell us about your career at North Dakota State.
My career started back in '85. I was recruited as a defensive back. So I went up to North Dakota State. I've visited the college several times. Prior to that, went to their football camp along with some other ones, and got recruited. I got a full ride to go there, so that paid for my college. So that was good. So
And you were telling me before that you're originally from Minnesota.
I'm from
right?
Minnesota, small town. Minnesota, small town in the southeast part of Minnesota. About an hour and a half south of Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Get a lot of snow up there.
Yeah, we got a lot of snow. We used to play in the snow. Now they have a dome up there, the Fargo Dome. So we played it. It was cold, especially in playoffs, because in the playoffs back when I was playing, they had it where 8 teams made the playoff, and then they switched to 16 teams at the time. So we went into December quite a bit in the snow, cold, and it was to our benefit when you had teams coming from other areas around the country to play in Fargo in the middle of the winter. So that was to our benefit at the time.
And what year did you win the championship?
So when I got there in '85, we won. When I was there the first year, I didn't get on the field at all because you were redshirted the first year, and so we won the championship. Then we beat the University of Northern Alabama, and then the next year was my redshirt year, and we won that year. Played University of South Dakota. We won that, and then the next year I started as a strong safety, and about 7 games into it, I blew my knee out, and that kind of set me back for a year and a half. So I had to sit out the next year, and then they won it again. I was still part of the team as an assistant coach, rehabbing, getting ready for my senior year, and then I had played my last year, my 5th year in '89, and we made the playoffs. We lost in the quarterfinals that year.
Well, Dan, we appreciate you being here today. So one
thanks for
last thing, how did you end up in Kentucky?
Well, right out of college, I was recruited by the Air Force, recruited me as a civilian engineer. I graduated with an engineering degree, and then went to Tucson, Arizona, the Davis-Monthan Air Force Base, and then skipped over to Langley Air Force Base on the East Coast, and then from there basically made it to Kentucky to Fort Knox.
Nice.
So I've been at Kentucky for Fort Knox for 13 years before I retired last year, the end of November. So I'm out here enjoying the great course that we have here in the E-Town, in the compound. Yes.
Compound.
I noticed you brought something here, Dan. What do you
Yes,
got
these
there?
are. I wanted to show you all. These are the 3 rings that I have that we did. It's kind of hard. You probably won't be able to see them all, but
You should be wearing them, Dan.
Well, I probably can't get them
Should
past
be-
my knuckles.
yeah.
That's the problem. This is the one that I played in. And the other two were the ones that I was a redshirt freshman, and then the year I got hurt. Rehabbing.
Well, so Dan is going to stick around with us today, and he's going to talk a little college football, a little NFL.
If you can get a word in it.
Yeah, no, I'm
You
just
can
gonna
get in
sit
over,
back here
over
and-
Jimmy Mick over there, the Mick one. But welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Dan.
It's,
Well,
been
today we're the two Micks and is it pronounced Musel?
muscle.
Muscle.
Like
We're two Micks and a muscle today, Jimmy.
Yeah, there you go.
All right.
Two Micks and a muscle.
So let's talk about last week's football games, Mike.
Well, I tell you, it was interesting. A couple of the teams that I thought were going to have some trouble. I should have picked my knowledge there on Clemson and Georgia Tech and Vandy and South Carolina, because I said those were two games that we needed to watch out for. And sure enough, Georgia Tech pulled the upset, and so did Vandy. Of course, South Carolina's quarterback got hurt.
Yeah.
Of course, the game of the week last week in college football was obviously Georgia at Tennessee, and it did not disappoint at all.
Yeah, Georgia
winning-
won in overtime.
Went in
Good game
overtime,
to watch.
and
Yeah.
it could have gone either way. I really felt like Tennessee they were in control for probably 3/4 of that game, and Georgia just kept hanging around, scrapping, and then Tennessee had a chance to win it with a field goal, and he missed it, and went to overtime, and then Georgia did what Georgia does and ended up with the win. So,
Yeah.
congratulations to the Bulldogs this week.
Georgia Tech beat Clemson, knocked them out of the top 25. Clemson, I think, is 36 now.
Well, and this again, I saw where Dabo was pretty heated in his press conference this week too. And this kind of goes back to our whole thing, Jimmy. You got Clemson that's not, they've lost to two tough teams on last plays of the game, and could have gone either way. And here they are. Now they're, but they can
They
still.
also, Mike, struggled against Troy. Troy led that game for
Well,
2.5 quarters.
Troy's not bad though. I'm
Yeah,
telling
but
you.
still.
Troy's
And
got a
then, of
tradition.
course, Texas A&M and Notre Dame, another great game. Texas A&M won by 1 point. And the refs did miss a call in that game. Had a Texas A&M player tackle the defensive player and offensive line that should have been called, but it wasn't.
That was a great game. It really was a
And
great
Notre
game.
Dame dropped to 24 at 0-2, but they played two tough games,
Well,
Miami and Texas A&M.
And again, not to pick on Penn State, but you got Penn State sitting there at number 2. How likely would they be 3-0 if they had played the schedule Notre Dame played? And this is the things that up at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Notre Dame went out there, scheduled two tough opponents. A tough game at Miami where they could have gone either way. I mean, they're basically 2 plays away from being undefeated right now and probably being the number 1 team in the nation,
Yeah, and then
or at
Vandy,
least number 2.
of course, Lenore Sellers got hurt, and it was tied 7-7, and South Carolina did not score any more points the rest of the game. And Vandy went on to beat them 30-7.
They're going to struggle without that quarterback. So we'll see how long it takes him to come back.
And then, Mike, what about the top 10? We had just one team move in, Texas A&M.
Texas A&M was the big jumper this week. They were 16th last week, and of course, again, Notre Dame, like you said, dropped to 24 because of that.
Then we had 3 teams that weren't in the top 25 last year that came in: Georgia Tech, Vandy, of course, and then USC. USC rounded it out at number 25.
Yeah, not much change in the top 10 though, other than Texas A&M and Notre Dame. But of course, there's some big matchups this week that'll kind of mix it up a little bit. So one of them, I'm interested to see. Illinois is there at 9th, and they play at Indiana.
Yeah.
Of course, both of those teams.
I'm taking Illinois.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm going to lean toward Illinois. I'll tell
Which
you.
one you gonna take?
Well, Indiana, that's when you were talking last week. How many players transferred from
James Madison.
James
last
Madison?
year,
They were in the
13.
FCS.
13.
So
But
I'm
they're
gonna go with Indiana
Okay.
just for that. You got to stick up for the FCS.
All right. Next game, Mike. What's the next game we're talking about?
Well, the big game of the week in my opinion. Of course, that's why I've got my Auburn hat on today, Jimmy. The Tigers, Auburn goes to Oklahoma this week in a 3:30 matchup, and to me, that's the game of the week.
Well, you'll see what Auburn's made of, but I've said all year at the beginning of our podcast that Oklahoma's the sleeper. Mike, I'm taking Oklahoma.
Well, you're probably smart to do that. I'm going to go with my heart here, and I think Auburn gets over the hump. And I think Auburn will go in and surprise. Last year they had Oklahoma beat, really gave the game away.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that this year they'll come through and turn it around. But I am speaking a little bit from my heart. I want that win for my son, and I think that would be a nice win for them to get. But we'll see.
All right. And then also, what about Florida at Miami?
Well, before that, the noon game is a pretty interesting one as well. Texas Tech at Utah. That's a big matchup because the winner of that game is going to be on the inside track to get the playoff spot out of the Big 12. And the interesting thing about that, they're playing at Utah, and that's a noon kickoff Eastern time. And I think that's so they're going to kick off at 10 in the morning out there. I think Utah's at 2 hours behind.
Who are you taking?
I'm taking Utah on that. Playing at Utah.
I would take Texas Tech. I think it's hard to beat the Texas team, even though they're going on the road.
I like Dan's logic. I'm taking Texas Tech. Did we ask you Auburn, Oklahoma? Who did you take?
I would take Oklahoma. Once again, it's at home. Oklahoma is always tough at home, so I think they'll be ready to.
And I'm probably picking them. I'm picking them for my heart. If I didn't have a stake with Auburn, then I probably would pick Oklahoma.
All right, Mike. What about Tulane at Ole Miss?
Well, this is an interesting game because I'm telling you, Tulane is a solid team. They're a good team. The Tulane's coach has got Kentucky ties. In fact, a lot of people were saying that if Stoops leaves, he's our next coach, and he's a really good coach. And that's an interesting game because Ole Miss has had a couple SEC games, and they better not look past Tulane. I'm telling you, they're a solid team, and they could definitely go in there and be spoiler to Ole Miss. But I'm going to take Ole Miss at home. But that is an interesting game to me. And, the two games I said that were interesting last week ended up being very interesting. And but I'll take Ole Miss in that game.
All right, Dan?
I think Ole Miss. Take that one.
I'm going with Ole Miss. That makes me unanimous. All right, then we got another game, Michigan at Nebraska. I'm going with Michigan on this one. I know it's a away game, but I'm going with Michigan.
I think Nebraska's going to get over the hump this year.
Right.
I think Rule is a good coach, and I think Nebraska is playing at home. They're starving for a big win, and it's been a long time since the Big Red Machine has stepped up. And I think that Nebraska pulls the upset this week.
Yep, I agree with Mike. I think Nebraska, they're gonna pull it off. I think they're gonna have a comeback season this year. They were always my college team when I was growing up.
From
the Midwest.
Yeah, I remember them too. They used to have some great teams, but they haven't for a while.
Yeah, they haven't for a while, but I think they're gonna come back.
And then another game that night will be Florida at Miami, and I've got to take Miami. I think they're good.
I do think that game will be a lot more interesting than what people think. I mean, I know Florida lost to South Florida at home, and that was a big surprise, but they're still a solid team. You saw that last week against LSU. They gave LSU everything they wanted, and LSU ended up winning that game 20-10. So, Miami – tell you what, Miami's probably had one of the toughest schedules at the beginning of this year, and has really come through. They ended up taking out South Florida pretty easy, which I kind of thought would happen after South Florida played above their head for 2 weeks in a row, and Miami was not going to overlook them. But I think Miami wins that game, but I think it's going to be a very tight game, and I think it'll go down to the wire. I really do. I think it will.
Dan?
I'm Miami.
Okay.
Miami's going to do that.
All right. Anything else about last week, Mike or Dan, you want to bring up?
Well, I guess the one thing, Kentucky played a Eastern Michigan, which I've said that if it's not a team that is really big, that we don't need to talk too much about them. But I do think that the Cutter Bowley getting the start last week. Is he going to be their quarterback for the rest of the year?
I'm telling you, he should be. But Stoops said this week that he's got 2 weeks, of course, because they've got a bye week this week or a week and a half now. And Stoops said he'll be making a decision next week who's going to be starting against South Carolina, because we have a tough schedule coming up. We got South Carolina at South Carolina, then we go to Georgia, and then Texas comes into Kroger Field, and
then you got Tennessee.
I think Cutter Bowley needs to be our quarterback. I think he's a redshirt freshman, and I think he'll be there 4 years. And Calzada, I mean, he's not bad, but he's injury prone. And I sort of feel sorry for the kid being in college 7 years, but a lot of that has to do with the injury. But this Cutter Bowley is for real.
Well, he's got a nice arm, and to me, when I was coaching, one of the rules was that if you had two players that were about the same and one has got more years in front of them, you go with the younger guy. And I like the fact that he's a Kentucky kid. And he's a homegrown, right here in LaRue County, with the LaRue County. Yeah. And he, to me, that in itself, and I just personally think he's more accurate than Calzada. Now, we've only saw Calzada.
Not only that, Mike, you got to watch some of these young kids nowadays transfer portal. If he thinks he's better than Calzada and he didn't get to start, he may transfer out of Kentucky. And now he's on tape and everything, and some of the other colleges can see him on tape, and they may go after him.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. That's today's day and age, and that's what you got to deal with. So, yeah, if you don't play, you're going to lose him. And, speaking of that, thinking like Dane Key, we talked about that Michigan-Nebraska game. One of UK's best receivers last year is now playing for Nebraska. Well for him, too. So, of course, we got the running back McGowan. So, but anyway, who's Louisville play this week, Jimmy?
Louisville plays Bowling Green.
Oh, another toughie. Another toughie for the Cards. Bowling
They
Green.
should win that one. So I'm picking Louisville.
Well, I'd say you're pretty safe.
Yeah, very safe on that one.
You're pretty safe.
So in the NFL last week, folks, we had a lot of quarterbacks that are questionable. 3 of them are not going to play this week. Of course, Joe Burrow, he's out till the middle of December.
Well, hopefully that's the quickest.
Yeah. He's out 2 to 4 weeks. And you know who's the quarterback?
Carson Wentz.
Carson Wentz from North Dakota State University.
Carson Wentz, this will be, if he starts this weekend, this will be the 7th team he started for in 7 years, I think it is.
That's
something like that.
Jimmy,
I think it leads the NFL.
One of the things that kind of rewinding here a little bit.
No, let's not rewind. I want to finish.
I want to talk about this because this dude's with the NFL.
All right.
And you failed to mention that, you said Cam Miller was drafted. Did you realize that North Dakota State had a first-round pick last year? He was an offensive lineman.
Yeah.
Gray Zabel was selected by
Zabel.
Seattle Seahawks, an 18th overall pick in the first round.
Yeah.
And, so they had a first rounder. In fact, I think they've had 3 first rounders. Trey Lance and Gray Zabel. They had 2 draft picks last year.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Thank you, Mike, for bringing that up.
Interesting
You should have brought it up an hour ago when we first started.
Well, I couldn't get 3 words in when you had the whole biography of what's going on.
And then Justin Fields, he's already been ruled out. He's under concussion protocol. Tyron Taylor will be his backup. Jaden Fields is questionable, and Mariota's his backup. And then Brock Purdy, the coach, said he may have a chance to play, but his backup is Mack from played in Alabama and played for the Patriots.
Well, my thing, obviously I'm a Bengals fan, and it's like a dagger again. Joe Burrow seems to always be snake bitten. They're going to have to figure out their offensive line problems or to me, they need to establish the running game because they don't establish the run well enough. And I think that's part of the reason. Burrow I think a little bit on his end too. He holds on the ball too much sometimes, which I know he makes great plays. And that's what makes him great. But sometimes he's just got to understand just to take take the loss or just throw it away. But I'm hoping that Browning can come in, and it was crucial now that they got off to that 2-0 start, because they're obviously gonna lose some games that I don't think they would have lost. But if he can go over the next 10 weeks or so, if he can get about even or maybe just above 5, he went 4-3 the last time he came in and replaced Burrow. Then they've still got a chance at the playoffs. It's going to be tough, though.
And then also the Chiefs was another big. They started 0-2. The Eagles beat them with the tush push.
Well,
do you know how many teams make the playoff that go 0-2? 12%. 12% will make 12%.
Yeah.
If you go 1-1, it's 48%.
I tell you,
and teams that go 2-0, 77% of the time make the playoffs.
I tell you, the Chiefs' problem too. And I still think the Chiefs make the playoffs, but their division is a lot tougher. I'm not taking anything away from the Chiefs. They have been a great team, and they deserve all the accolades that they've gotten. But their division for the last several years has not been very strong. The Broncos have been down. The Raiders have been awful, and the Chargers now are coming up. Chargers can be the team to beat in that big division. They're looking really good. So,
Dan, let me ask you a question. As a defensive lineman, do you think the tush push should be outlawed?
No.
No.
I think it's a legal play. If they want to go back to where you can't push your running back, or remember the days when you couldn't help your running back run, I think they got to go across the board on that all the way down the field instead of just at the line of scrimmage.
Well, did y'all watch that game? Well, I watched that whole game, and of course the big talk about this week is that on all 3 plays that they did the tush push, their offensive guards left early before the ball was snapped, and they didn't call it. And it was really bad on one of the play on the 4th down that they were going for it, and then the guard literally made contact with the defensive tackle before the ball was even snapped. And to me, that if they're not going to outlaw the tush push, because it's hard for those referees to see that and really make that call in that quick a
They're
time.
going to see it this week. They've already been.
Well, they will, but it happens so fast. And to me, that should be a reviewable play. I mean, you should be able to go. I think that and face masks should be reviewable. Like, if you don't see a face mask, I remember a few years ago, when Levis was there and it was a blatant face mask against Tennessee, they didn't call it. And that was at the end of the game, and it cost us a chance to win the game. And it was so easily reviewable, but that's not reversible. I think that should be reviewable, in my opinion.
I think they should, every team should be able to do it. If one team is better at it than the other, then the other team needs to get better at doing the tush push. It's like West Virginia. They brought in, 9 linemen the other day. They were down at the 2, but 9 linemen in to get the ball in the end zone. That's what you need to do. You should be able to do that, and then you got to bring your defense in there.
Well,
get it.
I mean, here's the other thing, too. I mean, everybody complains about it, but the thing is, the Eagles are the only ones that really mastered it.
Yes.
I mean, nobody else. And it helps when you got a quarterback like Jalen Hurts that can squat about 600 pounds. So, it's not like everybody can just do it, So,
as far as games last week, my favorite game was the Cowboys and the Giants.
That was a crazy game.
I mean, but
did you see that field goal?
64 yards.
And he could have made it from 74. It was crazy.
Yards. Aubrey kicked one. And these kickers, they're a lot better than it was years ago.
If you don't have a kicker nowadays that can routinely hit 50-something yarders, then you're behind the 8 ball in the NFL. Really in college almost too.
Yeah, they can. But Aubrey, I think he kicked 5 field goals in that game. But it was one thing Dallas they got to do better on defense. That's for sure. But I thought they looked pretty good, and Russell Wilson looked good. Now him and Malik Neighbors looked up for some long passes and everything. But anyway, Dallas pulled it off in overtime again with a field goal by Aubrey.
They did, and it looked like the Giants were going to win that game, but Cowboys needed that bad too. They needed it bad.
And then Browning coming in for Burrow when he got hurt and pulling out a win over Jaguars, I thought was a pretty good win too.
I think the big thing with the Bengals, if they're going to have a chance to really have some success without Burrow, they're going to have to really rely on the running game. not put Browning in. He's not Burrow. You know, he's a solid. He's an okay quarterback, and he can manage the game. But you know, he threw 3 interceptions that game because I think they try to put him in too many situations that Joe Burrow does. And Joe Burrow's not going to throw 3 interceptions. And to me, they don't establish the running game, and they really need to manage things. I'll tell you this too. I mean, the Bengals defense has been maligned all season and last year, and rightfully so. The first 2 games, the defense has won the games for them. I mean, they really have. So, you know, kudos to the Bengals defense for the, you know, first 2 games because they've and here's the thing. You still have the 2 best receivers, in my opinion, in the league that you don't have to be a great quarterback. You just have to get these guys the ball in space. So, you know, we'll see what happens.
And then Detroit bounced back against Chicago and put up 52 points from the dismal 13 points they put up the week before against the Packers. But the Packers also beat Washington. The Packers are for real, guys.
Yes, they are.
Let's
Oh,
face it.
They are. My Super Bowl pick, Jimmy.
Yep, the Super Bowl pick.
My Super Bowl pick. The Bills and the Packers are both 2-0.
Well, you're looking pretty good. I got the Ravens and the Lions, and the Lions helped me out last week or gave me a little bit more confidence.
Yep.
And any other games you want to talk about, Mike?
I don't think necessarily any specific games, but you know, you got 10 teams right now that are 2-0. So
Who would they be?
well, we got the Eagles and Bills, obviously. I think, and the Packers, the 3 top teams in the league.
Okay.
Chargers, the Bucks, Rams, Cardinals. You know, that remains to be seen. They haven't really played anybody that tough yet. Colts. I'm telling you, the Colts are not bad. I think the Colts, they've been the surprise team for me so far.
Danny Dimes is starting to play football.
And that's a team that was in the playoffs a couple of years ago, and they've got a solid roster.
Yeah.
So if Taylor can stay healthy and run the ball, and Daniel Jones, I think he got a bad shake in New York. I just think that I don't think he's a great quarterback, but I think he's a good, solid NFL quarterback. And again, saying kind of the same thing I think that Browning can do. If you got some supporting cast around you, you don't have to be great as long as your coach doesn't put you in the position to have to do it.
And then, of course, 49ers are 2-0. They played New Orleans at New Orleans with backup quarterback, Mack. And then the Bengals are 2-0. Out of those teams, Dan and Mike, which ones do you think might not make the playoffs?
Oh, I think definitely the Bengals, 49ers, and Cardinals are your 3 weakest of those 2-0 teams.
I would say Cardinals, definitely, yeah.
I'd say Bengals and Cardinals.
I think the other ones, I think that the Eagles, Bills, Chargers, Packers, I think the Bucks will make the playoffs. And I think the Rams will make the playoffs as well. And Colts, I think, I think they have a chance as well. But, I think all of them have a chance. But, the 3 that I would say that least likely to make it based on injuries. Obviously, I think if the Bengals had Burrow, you could put them up there in the top 5 or 6 teams that are listed. But, without
the key to anything is that long is stay healthy. You got to keep your line healthy to protect the quarterback.
Yep, definitely so. So looking ahead to this week, Thursday we kick it off with the Dolphins. Jimmy, what's going on with the Dolphins? Did you watch the end of that game? Yeah. You know that the end of that game, you had 2 kickoff returns in a row. And that had not happened since like 2000 when you had back-to-back kickoff returns. And of course, my thing was that why in the world did the Dolphins even kick it to them? Why don't they just kick it through the end zone? But anyway, the Dolphins obviously playing at the Bills are looking at 0-3. I think that coach is in trouble. He's going to be in trouble, I think. But who knows? They can turn it around still.
He's in trouble. He's in trouble. They're already calling for his head and everything. And so we got a Thursday night game, Miami at Buffalo. I'm pretty sure I'm taking Buffalo.
Oh, you got to take Buffalo.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. Yeah, I think Buffalo.
Atlanta's at Carolina. This is Sunday game.
Falcons got a big win last week, Jimmy, at the Vikings.
I know.
Yeah, that was pretty.
Yeah,
I was not happy with that,
I didn't
Jimmy.
even want to bring it up.
I'm sorry, man. But I did pick the Falcons to win that division. And,
Well, it doesn't
you
help
know,
it. Well, okay.
yeah, I think the Falcons are legit. I think that they
Oh, that's
have.
right.
I think that they're legit.
I'm still going with the Bucks.
You know, it'll be between them and the Bucks, and obviously the Bucks got the
I
first
think
win.
Baker
But
Mayfield's looking good right now. The Bucks are 2-0. Green Bay at Cleveland. I gotta go with the Pack.
yeah, I mean that's the
Pack,
pack.
yep,
Yeah,
Pack,
definitely
definitely.
there.
All right, here's a good one. Houston at Jacksonville.
Well, Houston's 0-2.
I know it.
Yeah, 0-2. Who would have thought that?
I'm picking Houston.
Yeah.
I'm taking Jacksonville, guys.
I said Jacksonville was going to be my surprise team this year. I think that they'll make the playoffs, and I'm still standing by it.
And then the next game, Dan will be interested in this one, Cincinnati at Minnesota.
Definitely Minnesota this time with Carson
I'm
Wentz.
going with Minnesota Vikings.
So they gotta do something at home.
I'm going to say this, and this I'm not just saying this as a Bengals fan. I think Cincinnati surprises Minnesota.
That's a gutsy call.
You know, and that's nothing against your guy Carson Wentz, but I've seen Carson Wentz enough over the last couple
Hey,
years.
don't bring that
But
up.
I don't really have a lot of confidence in him
No,
coming. But I have more confidence in Browning and Cincinnati's receivers and their offensive cast. And I think that they'll come in with the chip on their shoulder because everybody's counted them out. And I think the Bengals will go in there and I think they'll get a win at Minnesota. I do.
All right, and another 1 o'clock game, Pittsburgh at New England.
I think you definitely got to take the Steelers. But, you know, New England, you know,
tell you
Vrabel
something.
is a good coach.
Well, let me tell you something. With Pittsburgh, their defense better start playing like Pittsburgh Steelers defense. They let the Jets score 30 points. Last week, they only scored 10. And then they let Seattle come in. They scored 30 points. What people think, but I think Pittsburgh's going to win it.
Yep, that's why.
Yep. LA Rams at Philadelphia, Mike.
Oh, you got to go with the Eagles here, but that's an interesting game. I think the Rams always play tough, and you know it wouldn't surprise me if the Rams would go in there. You know, Philadelphia in general is not won easily in either of their games, and really, you take away that Kelsey drop. Or it pops up and lands right into the Eagles, and you take away the tush push that the guard went off early, and Kansas City wins that game.
Yeah.
So, you know, Philadelphia's offense has not been that
Yeah, but
impressive
what
yet.
I want to point out is last year in the playoff game for the conference championship playoff, the Rams almost beat them. So
Rams
it's gonna
are
be
good.
It's going to be a close game. All right.
And McVay's a good coach.
Yeah, the Jets at Tampa Bay. I'm going to go with Baker Mayfield and Tampa
Well,
Bay.
yeah, you got Justin Fields out as
All
well.
right. Indianapolis at Tennessee.
Colts.
Colts.
Definitely got to go with the Colts.
Vegas at Washington.
Washington is banged up right now.
Yeah, Jaden Daniels, he's questionable.
I tell you, who impressed me, even though the Raiders, you know, I don't think they're obviously I think Carroll's a good coach, but that running back out of Boise State, he impresses me.
Deontay.
Yeah, he is tough, and I love the way he runs. And
He's pretty good.
he reminds me a lot of the old school backs, and I think he is. Well, you know, you never know with running backs because they can get hurt so easy. But I really like him. I really do.
And then we got Denver at Chargers.
That's a big game. That's a big game.
I'm going with the Chargers, guys.
Yep, I got Chargers too.
I like the way Herbert's playing and everything. Bo Nix, he's been a little iffy, and I'm going with the Chargers.
I tell you, the Broncos got to be kicking themselves right now because they gave that game away against the Colts.
Yeah,
they really
they
did.
did.
They gave it away, and that you know, especially knowing that the next week you have to go play at the Chargers. That could be a game that they look back and think, you know, games like that are ones when you look back at the end of the season that are like, well, that kept us out of the playoffs or kept us from winning the division or whatever it might be. That might be that game for Denver.
And then we have Dallas at Chicago.
What about New Orleans at Seattle?
Well, yeah, but
Yeah.
I'm just I put it
Hey,
down.
Jimmy, New Orleans is one of your favorite
I put
cities.
it, I know it. I put it down on Seattle. I think you guys, all three of them.
I didn't even pick. I don't even know who to pick on that one.
I'm taking Seattle. I mean,
Yeah, you got to take
I'll-
Seattle.
Dallas at Chicago again.
I tell you, man, the Bears have shown flashes, but they really just do Bear stuff all the time. I mean, they just cannot keep it together.
New
And
coach this year, Ben Johnson.
but you know, the Cowboys are a train wreck too. So
He'll get them going. Of course, the Cowboys have a new year, first year head coach too. But right now, I think Dallas has got more firepower than Chicago.
I'm gonna pick the Bears in that. I think
All right,
the
good.
Bears usually win when you don't expect them to win, and they kind of I don't know. And then the Cowboys, you can never know what's going to show up with the Cowboys.
Stephen
So
A. Smith would be happy.
we'll
that
call
you
that
predicted
we'll
one.
call that the multiple personalities game.
All right.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to call that one.
And then Arizona at San Francisco. This is a good game.
I'm gonna go with the Cardinals just because you got Purdy, Brock Purdy's out, and maybe the Cardinals will prove it to me. It's hard for me to make that pick
Brock
because
Purdy, the coach said there's a chance he could play. He said there's a chance. He's not out right now.
well, you got Kittle out as well
Yeah.
still. So
All right.
I think Arizona goes in and gets a big win at San Francisco.
Okay, Dan.
Goes
I
3-0.
got the 49ers.
I got the 49ers. And then I get must win Kansas City at New York Giants. I'm going with Kansas City.
Well, who would have thought? I guess you would have definitely thought the Giants could be 0-2, but who would have thought that it would have gone into that game, third game, and both of them would be 0-2?
Would not thought.
But yeah, I think the Chiefs bounce back and they get a win at the Giants.
And then Monday night we have one heck of a game: Detroit at Baltimore. And I'm going with the Ravens.
That's who I'm picking too.
Oh yeah, I think you got to go with the Ravens.
I think it's going to be a great game, though.
Yeah, I mean, really, the Ravens should be 2-0. I mean, I think that not taking anything away from the Bills, but Baltimore kind of handed that game to them. They really dominated that game and really controlled most of the game, and just kind of fell apart in the last 5 minutes. So I do think that Baltimore. I just think Baltimore and the Bills are going to be the AFC. The winner, that's going to be the AFC Championship game, and it's going to be a game of the ages, I think, just like the first game of the year. But yeah, I'm definitely taking Baltimore.
Yeah,
So
I think so. Yeah. Lamar Jackson, I think he'll do good in that game. But you never know.
You never know.
It's going to be a
It's
close
the
one.
NFL.
It's gonna be
It's the
close.
NFL.
It's gonna
So,
be a close one.
but with that, I think that takes us all the way through NFL, Jimmy. You know what that time that means? It is.
Do I have a gripe this week?
It's,
You know, I got
it's
a
time
little
for
one.
Jimmy's gripe of the week.
I got a little gripe. I'm going to tell you what it is. The quarterback in the NFL is the most important commodity that every team has. You got to have a good quarterback. You don't have a team. And why in the heck these owners don't spend the money on an offensive line to protect the quarterback? We had 4 quarterbacks get hurt last year. And I'm not blaming the offensive line on every one of them, but you have to shore up your line to protect the quarterback. You're paying these quarterbacks upwards of $50 million a year to play. And your offensive line, you're playing $3 to $5 million. There is a couple of them that make $25 million a year, Mike. But this is what I think they ought to do. I think they ought to take the money they give that they have set aside for the offensive line. They give that money to the quarterback and let him hire his own. And he could even take money out of his own pocket and give it to him.
Jimmy's idea is taking money.
Yeah, they work for him. But NFL owners, it's always been a problem. Joe Burrow has not had good protection for a long time, and he's out for maybe the rest of the season. So that's my gripe of the week, Mike.
Oh man, you know what that means. Jimmy's got to pee. Dan,
Thanks, Mike.
it was a pleasure having
Thanks
you
for
on the
having me.
show, and best of luck to the Bisons this year.
Yep, they're ranked number 1.
We learned a little bit about North Dakota State today, and had a lot of fun out here at Cosmic Golf. We got a crowd coming in, and here's Mark Kane. He didn't hear me say something about his Alabama. Hey, Mark Kane. Mark Kane, War Eagle, baby. Anyway, we'll be back next week, and I hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you haven't yet, and hopefully you enjoyed our first broadcast for Cosmic Golf, and we'll be back next week. Peace out. This has been the 2 Micks. Have a great night.
With a Dan.